And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield as much time as he may consume to my friend, the gentleman from Michigan, Dan Kildee.
First of all, thank you to my friend and colleague, Mr. Kilmer, and Mr. Speaker. I rise today to address the House for the last time as a member of this historic symbol of our democracy. It's been the honor of my lifetime to serve my hometown and the people of mid-Michigan in Congress, and I'm so grateful to my constituents for putting your trust and your faith in me to represent you for the last 12 years. Every day that I've been in public service, I've been focused on doing what I can to improve the lives of the people back home. And so I'm very proud of the work that we've been able to accomplish together to make Michigan a better place. I'm particularly proud of what we've done to revitalize our manufacturing base and to bring jobs back to this country. As I've said a few times in this chamber, I'm from Flint, my hometown. So I know firsthand about how unfair trade deals and the lack of an industrial policy has hurt working families in the communities that I represent. So in Congress, I got to work. As a member of the Ways and Means Committee, I helped to replace NAFTA with a better deal for our America's workers. And under a Democratic Congress, we passed new laws like the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law to incentivize us to make things in America. Those manufacturing policies strengthen our manufacturing and our U.S. supply chains. And the real important aspect of that is that it's grown our local economy. These laws have worked. Already in mid-Michigan, we've seen major companies expand and invest, like SK Siltron in Bay City, Hemlock Semiconductor in Saginaw, Nanograph right in my home Genesee County. These companies are hiring hundreds of workers to produce American-made semiconductors, advanced manufacturing chips, electric battery materials to help ensure that America leads the way in manufacturing in the 21st century. To lower costs for families, again, I got to work, passing new laws to put more money in the pockets of hardworking Michiganders. We authored the electric vehicle tax credit. We expanded the child tax credit to lower costs. And in fact, I consider the refundable tax credit, the child tax credit, to be perhaps the best vote I've cast in my career in public office. We all come to Congress with our own priorities. Revitalizing mid-Michigan manufacturing was certainly one of mine. But the beauty of public service is that we're always learning something new from the people that we work for, from our constituents. And I'm very grateful to advocates in my district who first educated me on one of those issues, and that is the issue of PFAS contamination, chemical contamination. Today, most Americans now know the dangers of PFAS to the health and to their health and the environment. But back then, when we first got started in this, most members of Congress couldn't even spell PFAS, let alone know what it is. So I first heard from constituents like Kathy Wusterbarth and Tony Spagnola about the water quality issues in Oscoda. And we got to work urging faster cleanup of PFAS contamination surrounding the former Wurtsmith Air Force Base. And I helped establish with my friend Brian Fitzpatrick the first Congressional PFAS Task Force, which brought together Democrats and Republicans around this issue to more urgently address a real public health threat and to ensure that those exposed, and especially our service members, have access to the health care that they deserve. And finally, after years of advocacy, we have made progress. This year, the Biden administration announced the first ever drinking water standard for PFAS and designated certain PFAS chemicals as hazardous substance to ensure that the polluters, not taxpayers, have to pay to clean up that contamination. There's a lot more work we have to do to deal with cleanup of PFAS chemicals, but I'm proud of what we've done, and I'm proud that we've done it by working together in a bipartisan fashion. And I look forward to watching what my colleagues will do to continue to address this really important public health issue. Of course, throughout my time in Congress, the issue of clean drinking water, which in the richest country on the planet, at the richest moment in its history, drinking water should be something that is a right, not a privilege. But that challenge has defined much of my work. One of my really proudest accomplishments here in Congress was working to provide real relief to Flint families during that terrible Flint water crisis, to replace those lead pipes, to expand the health care services, to establish the Flint Registry, which gives access to ongoing support for the long-term effect of that terrible crisis. What happened in my hometown wasn't an anomaly, it was a warning to the rest of the country that we've got to be serious about common sense regulations to protect public health. From the moment that that man-made crisis began, I knew we had to get to work. And throughout the crisis, I organized numerous delegations of members of Congress to come to my hometown of Flint. Democrats and Republicans responded. They came and met directly with the families affected by this terrible crisis. They learned about the decisions that led to the crisis in the first place, and they helped build support for federal action. I brought President Obama to Flint to hold a town hall with the families affected. And for over 2 years, I worked with the Obama administration to expand Medicaid, to expand Head Start and healthy nutrition programs for families that really needed those supports because of the exposure to lead. And because of that work in 2016, despite the fact that then, like now, I was serving in the minority, I was able to secure $170 million in an aid package to help replace those terrible lead service lines, create the Flint Registry, to expand health care services. And I will be forever grateful to Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, then our Democratic leader, who recognized that a Republican majority needed Democratic votes to pass a year-end budget bill, and she deputized me to go finish the deal. She sent me directly over to meet with Speaker Ryan, and we were able to include that single Democratic priority in that budget bill that provided the aid to the families of Flint. So, as I also prepare to leave Congress, I'm frequently asked, what will I miss the most? It's not hard to list the things I won't miss. It's also not tough to list those things I'll miss the most. And it's the friendships that I have made in this body. So I want to thank my colleagues. First and foremost, to Michigan's congressional delegation. It's been a real honor to be the dean of our Democratic delegation and to work alongside our two great senators, Senator Debbie Stabenow and Senator Gary Peters, and to previously have been able to work with one of my mentors, the late Senator Carl Levin. We came together to protect the Great Lakes, to support the hardworking men and women of the auto industry, and to clean up that terrible PFAS contamination that I mentioned. But specifically to Speaker Pelosi, a masterful legislator, a masterful tactician. Simply put, there's no one better in this business where I've learned more from. Thank you for never forgetting about the people of Flint and always fighting for America's children. To give a punch and to take a punch for those kids. She's done that her whole career. To Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, a true and honest friend, a classmate from our 2012 class. We often joke about how the term "my good friend" is tossed about in this body pretty loosely, but he is an honest and true friend and an incredible leader for our House Democratic Caucus, and I want to thank him for the trust that he placed in me to serve in the House Democratic leadership and to serve as the co-chair of the Democratic Steering and Policy Committee. Hakeem and I came to Congress together, along with an amazing group of people in 2012. They're all friends. We share a special bond. I'm especially grateful to three of members of my class, one of whom you just heard from, who came not just as friends, but became my roommates over the years. Jared Huffman from California. Of course, Derek Kilmer, my buddy from Washington State, and Ami Bera, also from California, who have not only been roommates, but in that role have helped me get through some of the good times, but also were there as a listening ear to help me get through some of the tough, really tough personal challenges that I faced during my time here in Congress. These are friendships that will last forever. There are other groups, the baseball team, the guys in the corner, and Congressman Kilmer mentioned them, the Indespicables. We'll explain that off the record. But two of them right here, Derek Kilmer, of course, and Adam Schiff, a group that we've been able to bond over and strategize with and sometimes just listen to one another. Those friendships will go on. And even though Adam's moving over to the Senate, I suspect he will still remember our names. Thank you. To my chairman, Richie Neal, the chairman of the oldest and what I think to be the most powerful committee in Congress, the Ways and Means Committee. Serving on that committee, especially under the leadership of Richie Neal, has been some of the most meaningful work of my career to pass fair trade deals, to cut the cost of insulin, to protect Social Security and Medicare, and to cut taxes for working families, and especially expanding that child tax credit. It's been one of the greatest honors of my lifetime, of course, to work with the people here, but one of them was a special friend, a person that I was very fortunate to get to know, first as a person I admired from a distance, but then became a colleague and a true friend. And I'm talking, of course, about the late John Lewis. And I remember, Derek, when we first got here, how many times we would say to one another, as rough as it was, aren't we lucky we get to go to work every day with John Lewis. I remember sitting on the floor here, literally sitting on the floor here when John led an effort to call attention to gun violence. It's the kind of good trouble that John was known for, and I was happy to participate in that moment, never fully understanding until recently what devastating impact the pain of gun violence can have on families across the country. I'm now one of those families. I didn't know it then. I got to call John Lewis for the last few months of his life every single time that we had a vote on the floor of the House, because he designated me to cast his vote for him during the COVID proxy rules. He was too ill to be here. He gave me this incredible gift to vote for myself in the 5th District of Michigan then, and then to come to that podium and announce to this Congress that I was about to cast the vote on behalf of the gentleman from the 5th District of Georgia, John Lewis, the person most known for the precious right to vote, gave me a gift I'll carry with me for the rest of my life, and that was the opportunity to carry his vote to the floor of this House. I want to thank my extended family, really, my staff, to the dozens of team members, the past and present members of my crew. Thanks for your hard work, for your dedication. I have really had the most talented and selfless team, dedicated DC and district staff I could ever have hoped for. They've poured themselves into this work, their hearts and their souls into this work. I've often told my staff that while I carry that voting card and I wear this pin on my lapel, that they serve in Congress, and they have done that extraordinarily well. I want to especially thank my longtime Chief of Staff, Mitchell Rivard, who's been with me since not just I got here in my campaign, but who came to work for me even when I launched my campaign in 2011. He's been with me ever since. On the good days and on the not so good days, like being sworn in for the first time, but then he and I were both here in the Capitol on that terrible day, January 6th. He's become like family. He's done an outstanding job leading my team, and I'm excited about the great things that every one of my team will accomplish as they move forward. Mitchell and my district director, Jacob Bennett, were with me from the day I came to Congress until the day we packed up the office to go home. And the country is really fortunate that they'll both continue to serve in this institution. And I have a couple of other my team members who are with me on and off for the most of my time here, Jordan Dickinson and Gada El-Keek, who both I've known since they were probably too young to vote and have been an important part of this experience for me. I've said many times that while I've been elected to lots of different public roles, I've never felt like I've changed jobs. I just got different business cards and a different toolbox to do my work, because my job responsibilities have been the same: serving, working for, and representing those people that I work for. I was elected to office, to public office, first when I was 18 years old, and now 5 decades later, it's hard to believe, 5 decades later, I continue to love public service and believe that this important work is that, important and honorable service. But for me, it is time to go home. And as I reflect on my time in Congress, I'm thinking about the future. I'm excited to see that Mid-Michigan has elected to represent it, a soon-to-be new member of Congress, Kristen McDonald-Rivet. I know Kristen, she'll be a great common-sense, pragmatic leader for our area, and I'm especially proud that I helped to elect the first woman ever to represent this district in Congress. While I'm stepping back from public office at the end of my term, I'm most definitely not retiring. I'm looking forward to a new chapter, continuing to serve Flint and that region, but just outside of elective office. I have a lot of friends to thank for helping me to get here, and it's impossible for me to list all of them, but I do want to mention one of them. Larry Rosenthal would have turned 62 today. He's been my friend for almost 40 years, my closest political advisor, my confidant. We lost Larry over the summer. I wouldn't have been a member of Congress without him. I wouldn't have been as successful as a member of Congress without him being at my side, and he was there every step of the way. He really was family. To my family, especially my wife, Jennifer, I say thank you. She has stood by me and given up the most through my public service here. And I know, at least I think, she'll be glad that I'll be home full time. She has put up with a lot. So thank you, Jennifer. And she's done so having to deal with her own health struggles. She's my hero. I'm grateful to my kids, to my son Ryan, my daughter-in-law Ginger, and their children, the 2 most perfect grandchildren ever to occupy the earth, Caitlin and Colin. To my son Kenneth, who lives in New York, my daughter Katie. They have put up with my schedule. They have given me the reason and the inspiration to continue to fight on. They've supported and defended me even when the unfair critics chose to take their grievances to them instead of directly to me. To my mom, Margaret, my greatest defender, and my late father, Jack, thanks for all you did to make this journey possible. I was happy to look into this gallery 12 years ago and to see you as I took this oath of office. I miss my dad every day, but I know when I watch them up there how proud he was, and thinking of that day still makes me smile. To my siblings, most especially my late brother Tim, who we tragically lost this past March, they and their families were always a part of this experience, so much that one of my former staff, Gada El-Keek, once coined the term the BIC for my family, the built-in crowd. My family has endured a lot. I wouldn't be who I am, and we couldn't endure the recent pain our family has experienced without one another. Of course, I want to mention my late uncle, Dale Kildee, my predecessor in Congress, a mentor and a teacher to me since childhood, and a man who set an example that I have tried to live up to, that you can fight hard for the things you believe in and still respect the human dignity of everybody around you, even those with whom you disagree. So thank you Dale, for that lesson. Congress needs to heed your example now more than ever, and that lesson has been tested, even on me. I still remember the chair I sat in and the wall I hid myself behind on January 6th, knowing that some of the people that I share this chamber with contributed to the necessary precondition for that attack. I have not been able to look at them the same, but I've tried to take the lessons that my uncle provided me and to continue to treat those people with dignity. It's been a challenge, but it's one that I believe I have been able to overcome, and I encourage future Congresses to continue to look at Dale Kildee as an example. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll end where I started, expressing my deepest and most sincere gratitude to the people of my home communities and to the people of mid-Michigan. It's been an honor of a lifetime to be your voice. I did my best. I'll see you back home. And now, Mr. Speaker, for the very final time, I yield back. Thank you.